Thanks for tuning in to The Rachel Hamm Show, where you'll find the inspiration, encouragement, and tools you've been craving. Be sure to hit subscribe and give this video a quick like. Now, here's Rachel.
Hi, this is The Rachel Hamm Show. I'm Rachel Hamm. Thanks for joining me. So I had a dream last night that I wanted to share with you and then share what it was that God showed me about the dream. So the dream was pretty straightforward. I was in a room and there were various people coming in that had need, and the needs were increasing throughout the dream as far as what was required of me in order to help them. So like the first couple people was kind of like, just, hey, like, do you have $1? And I was like, oh yeah, here's $1. And then the next one, it was like, hey, can you give me a ride somewhere? And I was like, sure. Like, it was like people I didn't know. I was like, oh, sure. Yeah. And then the next people came in with a group of kids and they said, hey, can you watch these kids? And I was like, okay, sure. And then it was like, well, can they stay with you for a little while? Like, can you be like their foster parent? And I was like, okay, sure. And then one of the little boys, he was 4 years old. He came up to me and he was a foster child I knew. And I got the impression he was one of the kids that have come across the border. Looked like a little Hispanic boy, broken English kind of. And so he comes up to me and he says, can I ask you something? And I said, yes. And he said, do you adopt children? And I said, well, yes, actually, I have an adopted son. I have 4 sons, and my youngest one is adopted. So yes, I do. I have adopted a child. And he said, would you be willing to adopt a 4-year-old? And I knew he was up for adoption. He needed a home, and he was asking me if I would be willing to adopt him. I paused and I thought, I just finished raising my kids. Like, I just finished that phase of life. I mean, think about, like, so my kids are 26, 24, 22, and 18. So like way past the work of raising a small child, which is a lot of work. It's a ton of work, right? Like, and I enjoyed a lot of it and I didn't enjoy a lot of it. And I'm glad to be at the stage of life I'm at. It's a big change for me. It's been a little hard in some ways, but it also is exciting. It's a new phase. And I'm excited to be in this new phase. I'm enjoying time with my husband, just me and him. And there's a lot of fun things about it, a lot of freedom with it, right? So when this kid, with a look of complete desperation, is looking at me saying, will you adopt a 4-year-old? AKA, will you adopt me? I paused, right? I paused and thought, I just finished raising kids. I just finished raising 4 boys. I don't want another one. And I don't want to go back to that stage. A 4-year-old, that's like, all the work is still ahead of you, right? You know, all the schooling and teacher meetings and sports and work, tucking them in at night, making sure they're brushing their teeth and showering and clothes and shoes and food and just all the stuff. I don't want to go back to that stage. I'm glad I went through it with my 4 boys. But so what rose up in me was like, I really don't want to. But then I was trying to assess, like, is God telling me to? Is God saying that this is what he's asking me to do? He's asking me to adopt this kid? And as I was thinking about all of this, thinking about how I've just finished that stage and how I don't want to adopt another kid and how I'm excited about this phase and how is God asking me to do this and all the things I was thinking, he's slowly walking. He's looking at me, waiting for my answer. And he's like backing away towards a door. And he's waiting for my answer. And I'm staring at him and he's staring at me and I'm thinking through everything. And then he gets to the door and he said, okay, and slipped out the door and was gone. And he said, okay, you didn't answer in time. So the answer is no. Okay, I'm gone. And as soon as he left, I had this really sick feeling of missing God. Missing what God was telling me to do. And I woke up. So as I was thinking through this dream, like, good grief, is God asking me to adopt another child? I kind of thought of it very literal at first, and thought, oh my gosh. I felt like God said, no, it's not. It's not about that. It's about having it determined in your heart that you say yes. You say yes to whatever it is that I ask you to do, whatever it is that I present to you that I'm saying, okay, I want you to do this. I want you to not do that. I want you to say this. I want you to go here. I want you to take on this responsibility. I want you to have it determined in your heart that the answer is yes. It's yes. And I know we're supposed to count the cost. I definitely do understand that we're supposed to do that. But at the same time, it felt like I was maybe overly counting the cost. I was delaying obedience in a way and really focused on the cost more than I was focused on wanting to say yes to whatever God asked me to do. And I felt like he was showing me that he's going to be asking us to do things we flat out don't want to do. I just finished that stage. I don't want to adopt another kid. It's really, really hard and a lot of work and not fun and costs a lot. And I'm getting old and that's tiring. And all these reasons, right, that we can think of for why we don't want to do that thing. But I think that, and it's understandable, by the way, to not want to do that thing. However, I think that we're given an opportunity to store bridges for ourselves in heaven by saying yes to those very hard things. But also, if the God of the universe asks me or you to do something, the answer must be yes. And I mean, he's asking me to do some things right now I don't want to do, but I'm thinking maybe he's getting ready to ask me to do more of what I don't want to do. And I just think that I have to be ready to say yes. And you have to be ready to say yes if we want to please God. And we have to live that kind of laid down life of pursuing God and of obeying him. And specifically, there was something about this little boy in the dream where I knew he was very poor. And as a politically conservative person, sometimes I have disdain towards the way that liberals handle taking care of the poor, because I live in California, right, where it's full liberals in charge of everything, right? Like the governor is a very liberal Democrat, the House, the Senate, everybody. It's a super majority is what it's called. So it's like all Democrat. So if you want to see what Democratic policies will do for you, you can come to California and see what it'll do for you. It will completely devastate your country and it will cause poverty to rise. Poverty is rising here and has been for a long time. The homeless rates through the roof, drug use through the roof, crime through the roof. Why? Poverty, neediness, hopelessness, and addiction, and a lack of enforcing law, lack of incentivizing good behavior and punishing bad behavior and all that, right? So I can have a tendency to really resent the way that liberals handle taking care of, which I'm doing in air quotes here, taking care of the poor, because they're not. Their policies actually cause poverty, increase poverty, hurt those that are impoverished, keep them impoverished. They incentivize bad behavior that keeps people impoverished. So I hate that. I really hate that. And it's frustrating to me that liberals don't see it, that they don't see what they're doing. Like, look at the fruit here of what you've chosen, right? It's impoverishing people. However, I need to, and I'm saying this because maybe this applies to you too, I need to be careful to not mistake the fact that I still have a responsibility to care about the poor and do what I can do for the poor when God asks me to, what he shows me to do. We're supposed to care for the orphans and the widows. And I'm thinking of that scripture in Ezekiel 16. Let me pull that up real quick. Ezekiel 16:49. Now this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She and her daughters were arrogant, overfed, and unconcerned. They did not help the poor and needy. They were haughty and did detestable things before me. Therefore, I did away with them, as you have seen. And by did away with them, he means he killed them, completely destroyed their whole city. And partly what he's saying is it was because they were arrogant and unconcerned about the poor and the needy. So I am wanting to have, and I am having a yes in my spirit for whatever God asks me to do for the poor and needy. And same for you. Have a yes. Don't let the politics of how liberals have so royally screwed up their whole week. They act like they're the ones that care about the poor and that they're the ones that are doing things for the poor. And it's such BS. No, they're keeping people impoverished. Again, if you doubt it, come on over to California, take a look at what liberal policies are doing to the poor. Our homelessness and poverty rates are increasing all the time and have been for years. So, and I say that because it's not just because of inflation. It's not just this most recent couple of years of inflation. No. This has been a long-term problem here, and it's been getting worse and worse for probably at least 15 years, maybe even more than that. So we can't mix that up, though, because we're supposed to care for the poor and needy, and we need to do whatever God asks us to do. And I say whatever he asks us to do because I don't assume that I should help someone. I help someone when God tells me to help them. And I do precisely what he tells me to do. And there's other people that it is clear I am not to help them. And only God knows why it's either way, right? And I'm talking specifically in that case of like homeless people, that, shouldn't give homeless people money. That's what they tell us, that, that it usually goes towards drugs, and it's not a good idea to give homeless people money. But sometimes I'll give them food or take care of them in some other way. And but even then, it's when God says. So let's have the yes in our hearts, ready to go. The yes of whatever it is God tells me to do, whatever it is he's asking me, even if it's like, I just finished raising my kids. I don't want to adopt a 4-year-old. But if God's asking, then the answer is yes. Have it determined in your heart that when God asks you to do something, you're going to say yes. Good grief. George is sitting at my feet, licking my feet to death. It's driving me crazy. George, stop. Okay. And Nikki's snoring, George is licking. Good times. Okay. So have the yes determined in your heart. And specifically when it comes to the poor and the needy, don't automatically assume that you're not supposed to do something because of how it's gotten messy with politics and how we kind of lump some things into being political, when really we need to make sure we're being biblical. And biblically, we do have a responsibility to look out for orphans, widows, the poor, and the needy. And so we will say yes when God asks us to do something, even if it comes at a really high price, like being asked to take on an orphan literally into your home for like the rest of their life. Let's say yes. God bless you, and know that you are loved.
Thanks for watching The Rachel Hamm Show. If you found value in today's content, would you consider giving a gift? Any amount is appreciated, and the links to give are in the description box below this video. Or perhaps you'd like to buy one of Rachel's products so she can continue bringing content like this to you. All the links to purchase her products are in the description box below the video. To find out more about Rachel, you can go to her website, rachelhamm.com. That's Rachel, Hamm.com. See you in the next episode of The Rachel Hamm Show.